This episode is sponsored by Manscaped VPN. Use code DaveDorkDrew15 or the link below to get 15% off your subscription and protect your pre-post-game Clarity's data today. But for now, let's get back to the show. Hey everybody, welcome to Post Game Clarity, where after the game
comes the doopity-day.
Yep, and Dave, that rocked. And we're here back. We're with the classic crew. I, of course, am Drew Doodle. I'm here with Dave's video game journey and Dorkaxe. And we're going to talk about Klonoa 2 after last time we talked about Klonoa 1 like 3 months ago. Good lord. Yeah, how are you guys doing today?
It is a fine morning over here in the land of Australia.
The land of the rising sun. And you, Dork?
I died to an Elden Ring boss as I killed her, and I'll have to retry it after this is done, so I'm in a mood. It didn't count!
Yeah. Jeez. That's crazy.
Epic.
Truly epic.
Not as epic as our sponsor. I'm kidding.
We're not doing the ad read yet. We have to interrupt the middle of the... We have to interrupt in the middle of the pot. We have to interrupt in the middle of the show and cut to the ad break out of nowhere. That's how podcasts do it these days. So you can't skip it.
You're right. Sorry.
But here we're here today to talk about Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil. And I know what you're thinking, Drew. None of those words are in the Bible, and you're right. But also, we're here to talk about Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil. We're not going to be doing a whole commentary style type thing. We will get into specifics, but I don't really want to walk through the entire game linearly because we milked the fuck out of Klonoa 1 last time. And there's also not a whole lot to say. I mean, I said, Klonoa's got a whole tragic development history, basically carried right on over to Klonoa 2 because the PS2's launch ended up being insanely stacked. The whole library is stacked. So that's really all there is to say about that.
And if you think about it, like Dave's little story about this game, he talked about it in the podcast for the first game. So
yeah,
that's on the way too.
Yeah, the evidence for the
PS2
being stacked. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just gonna be us mainlining Klonoa 2 content.
Yeah, we love mainlining. Yep. And
that's snorting.
This is just gonna be fucking a crazy, chaotic episode. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So my first question is let's just jump right the fuck into it. Dorkaxe, do you want to say an opening piece about this video game? Because I have a more specific question for Dave.
It is pretty good. Listen, right? When you come off of Klonoa 1, and this could be an issue with the remake, and this could be an issue with me not really, vibing with playing multiple games of the same series almost back to back. I mean, I had a long break halfway through, but even still, it was really like, wow, this again? And I just didn't want to keep playing. And oh my god, they spent so much fucking time with the dialogue, and I just did not give a shit this time. Even though, it's funny, you'd think that they would have earned it, because I've seen Klonoa 1, and I totally think that game's like, oh shit, okay, you got me. And yeah, they did something similar with this one, where the ending's like, oh, it kind of reshaped what you thought, didn't it? A little bit, but I don't know, it just felt like they're like, oh, this is what the kids want. They liked that part of Klonoa 1. Therefore, we're gonna just cram all the fucking Popka dialogue down their throats!
Damn.
And, yeah, I'm very tired of that little fucking Popka. That's what his name is, right? Popka?
Yeah, fuck Popka. He sucks.
Yeah, utterly useless. Literally the Jar Jar of Klonoa 2. Did not need to be in it, but George Lucas is like, dude, we're gonna sell these fucking action figures. I don't know who at Namco thought
I would actually say he's 1% better than Jar Jar because he did one thing right in stealing the snowboards for us for the rest of the game. But that's the only thing he did.
I'm trying to think of anything Jar Jar did that was good. I don't think he did anything that was good.
He didn't do anything right.
You got me. All right.
Awesome.
That's my little thing. That's my piece.
Cool. And Dave, you said you really wanted to talk about emulating the PS2 version, and you can also talk about your general thoughts about the game overall.
Okay, so it turns out that I played Klonoa 2, the original PS2 version, on hardcore mode.
What?
Let me explain.
What's that?
So there was something wrong with the emulator where every time Klonoa died, it would crash the emulator. And not just like a quick crash, oh, I get to load up again. It took the emulator about a minute to realize it had crashed. So I'm just sitting there on my desktop waiting, and then I have to load back in. So what that did was basically I had to save state almost every time I hit an alarm clock. I save stated through a bunch of the bosses because if I wasn't quick enough to load every time I died, I would have to sit through a crash again. and actually I think maybe it soured my enjoyment of the game a little because I was so stressed out about having to nurse like the F3 key and the F1 key to load in case, I didn't make a jump or in case I got hit a third time. Luckily, there is usually a little bit of an animation wind up on both. Now, there's kind of a funny coda to this. About halfway through the game, the PS2 emulator had an update, but it said, caution, this update will remove all your game saves. And I thought that included the saves for the virtual memory card that the emulator uses. So I'm like, oh, well, shit, I can't do that. I just have to power through the rest of the game. So I got through the game, and because the game was over, I updated the PS2 emulator, and wouldn't you know it, Klonoa 2 didn't crash anymore when I died, and it didn't affect the memory card.
Oh my god, that would piss me the fuck off.
That sucks, but honestly, I mean, you were really going, like for one in the hand, two in the bush right there. You did not know if it meant you had to start all over or something. It was really risky. So I totally get why you did that, but that's very unfortunate that is right there. So my general thoughts of the game are that I loved most of the levels. I loved more than the original Klonoa. There's just something about the way they use the PS2 to play more with perspective and angles.
Yes.
Here's a funny note I wrote after one game session. You know how in a lot of levels they will have those transitions where Klonoa jumps in the cannon and then it will like show Klonoa flying either into the screen or away from the screen, usually going between like pylons. And it's always pretty like, ooh, look what we can do. After about half the game of that, I wrote, could this technically be called a cinematic platformer?
What I was thinking was that it reminded me a lot of those things in like the Galaxy games, and I was like, this is actually prior to the Galaxy game. This was 01 opposed to like 07, 08, so it's like not bad. I mean, I don't think it really like, at least in my opinion, I don't think it added anything to anything. No. I just didn't really give a shit.
Doesn't.
I was like, oh.
Well, because I guess, but also the way they had like a lot of stuff going on in the background. Like there's a period very early on in the Funhouse level where there's these fireworks going off in the background, and I just stood there and watched them for like a good minute because now I did get to play a few levels of the remake after I finished because I just wanted to compare, and I don't know what it is. But, the remake is technically more polished, but there's just something about the way the PS2 version looks that I guess I'm more impressed with all the bells and whistles, all the effects, all the angles, just how the whole game is presented on that version of the game that just didn't work when I played the same sections in the remake, even though everything's a lot stronger.
With the colors, I feel like.
I mean, I will totally agree that the PS2 one looks better. If you remember when I was watching, I think I don't remember if it was in the podcast last time, but I had seen a clip of Klonoa 2. Yeah, because I was showing Klonoa 2 for the podcast video portion, and I was like, that opening level looks amazing, and I was so excited to play it. And I, of course, played the remake, and it's just, the remake just doesn't have that, like, the remake graphics are pretty much like the staple, indie, glossy, clinical just
Yeah.
blah. It almost feels like ever since Super Mario Bros. Wii, everyone's just like, let's just fucking do something like that. And that's just what every single indie platformer looks like. Because even if you think about it almost looks like a Hat in Time. It almost looks like Ukulele. I'm guessing this was on... What engine were they using for this?
I'm not sure.
Because I imagine they had to put it to a different engine, right? They can't use the same one on the PS2? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. Let me look real quick. Yeah, it was in fucking Unity. That's probably where the issue comes from.
It looks like a fucking Unity game. That's what it looks like. That's not a compliment.
And it stinks. It stinks for Klonoa too, because this was the first time that this game specifically got a re-release, which is very unfortunate that it's being presented this way.
And I'll just say, because I said this to Drew in chat, but based on how the PS2 version looks and just how I felt while playing it, I just wanted there to have been a Klonoa 3 on the PS3 hardware to see what they would have done with that extra computing power, because the jump from what they were able to do from 1 to 2, I think they took good advantage of it. Now, it seems like, okay, as Dork pointed out, like the cannon shots and all the perspective changes and even the background stuff, that's not really, it's not really like the core of the game, right? It's flourish, it's production value. And look, it's not to discount production value, because, it adds so much to a game. And if a game isn't strong gameplay-wise, good production value can kind of push you along. But on the PS3, it just made me think. And it's funny, I thought about having one on the PS4, and then I'm like, because there's that school of thought, which I kind of, in some ways, agree with. Like, the PS3 was like the last substantial jump in console hardware. So it seems like the PS4 and the PS5 are just like PS3 but better.
Dave, I totally agree, but I have the answer for you. A Klonoa game on the PS4 would look like the Klonoa 2 remake. It would look like that, and we do not want that, do we?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree, actually. I don't necessarily agree that Klonoa 3 would straight up look like that. I think they just straight up didn't care. They just made it in Unity.
No, I mean, hang on. If they had one for the PS3, I think it would look great. But I'm saying if they kept going and had one for the PS4, well, this is a PS4 game. I think they would just be like, well, let's just make it look like the most, up-to-date stuff on Unity, which is what this looks like,
Yeah.
It just depends if it's the same people, which is really unlikely, because as we know, Dave, as you've said a lot of times on Discord, design teams rarely stick together when they really should, because that's how they iterate off of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a lot different in Japan. Those teams or those people tend to stick with the company. But you're right. And reality is that both Klonoa 1 and Klonoa 2 underperformed. So it's amazing we even got a Klonoa 2. And I understand completely why there wasn't a Klonoa 3, even though, based on what 2 was. Now, going back to what 2 was, I'm going to echo Dork with, I think too much time and effort was spent on a story I just didn't care about at all. And while I think they did probably focus a little too much on the visual polish, but I will say also that I think the game added some really cool ideas of how to create puzzles or to create new gameplay scenarios with Klonoa's basic toolkit. Now, a lot of it did. I agree. A lot of it did feel like they were kind of losing, like they had some good ideas, but it did feel like they were tapping the well dry a bit. So maybe a Klonoa 3, they wouldn't have known what the hell to even do. But then again, you never know. One of the things about creativity is when your back's against the wall, sometimes the best stuff comes out.
Majora's Mask, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things. So like most of the levels, there are some I didn't like, and we'll probably discuss those when we discuss like levels in depth. But most of the levels I enjoyed so much. The bosses were actually kind of an afterthought in this game to me, which is sad because the Klonoa 1s were so memorable for the most part. And it's funny because Dork talked about how like the story kind of brought itself together at the end. There's a point in the game where you take a warp The world map, you warp to another world map, and there's there's 2 levels and a boss in that new area. It's like the end game of the game. And from that point, when you warp, I think the game is spectacular. It almost saved my entire playthrough because I was kind of lukewarm on it, but like those 2 levels and the final boss and then the ending cutscene is so strong that it left me with a very positive impression of the game as a whole.
100%. I can't believe, because I was really, like one level at a time. Every I was just crawling to the end. But then I did that whole end part in the one session, and I was like, all of this is great. This is all amazing, and especially that one end, like snowboarding level, and then the end snowboarding boss, and then the end boss. I'm like, this is really good. I would have liked if there was one more phase, but we'll get to that when we get to the boss fights. But yeah, I totally agree that it got really, really good at the end. Yeah.
It's interesting because I remember I played these games for the first time last year, and they're not long, so I spent like about a week on both of them because I just sat down and just played through them. I actually had a difficult time until I got to the end game of Klonoa 1 really being sold on the whole thing. And then when it came to my first playthrough of Klonoa 2, I was so kind of sold and wanting to see what happened next that it kind of just carried me kind of straight through the game, which isn't to say there aren't straight up bad levels. There are some pretty big stinkers, but I don't know. I find myself really appreciating a lot of what they really wanted to do with Klonoa 2 a lot. I don't think the story is told perfectly, but I really enjoy what it accomplishes. It reminds me a lot of Inside Out, weirdly enough. And the visuals look really great on the PS2 version, especially. The colors look really great. The little outline. Any game that has a little outline, and that's just iconic. That's just instantly iconic. That's just awesome. And I really like the soundtrack. I find it to be a lot more risk-taking. I find it to be a lot more mature in a lot of ways in terms of songwriting. I don't know. I think it's kind of the overall consensus that a lot of people like Klonoa 2 a lot better, or not a lot better, a little bit better, actually. And I don't think I would go that far. Yeah, it totally is. And then I would actually say I agree more with Dave. I think they're both more or less on the same level. But I think in a lot of very subtle ways, they didn't change the base gameplay or any objectives really at all, how you pursue objectives really at all. But in terms of the presentation, there's a lot of very subtle new things that they tried to do, which does lead to some really cool mechanics as well. So I really appreciate Klonoa 2 a lot, but I definitely see where you guys are coming from. Speaking of that, do you guys want to talk about some levels that stuck out to you for either good or bad reasons?
I've got plenty.
I was hoping we could talk about the overall additions when it comes to the puzzles and mechanics, because there's one in particular I really wanted to talk about because it's the best thing in the game.
Oh, okay.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
So the color changer puzzles are by far the best part of the game for me. Like the ones where you have to, hold the color changer enemy, hit an enemy with it, it changes to blue, hit another one, it changes to yellow, or all that kind of stuff. That is, it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're downright genius sometimes.
I'd say, especially in, the last, real platforming level, the one in, the Sorrow area, there are some really fucking clever ones, in the sense where you had to be really precise with which enemy you're hitting first, and even, if you should take a jump or not, onto the next area, or use it to double jump onto an enemy to get higher. Really clever stuff, because you have to essentially, take advantage of the core mechanics that were presented in Klonoa 1, but you also have to do it on a timer that's related to the enemy you're holding, which is pretty unique, I'd say. Because I'd say, the closest example we have of this is the switches. I think you know exactly which ones I'm talking about, where you have to hit the switches in a certain, time frame. This almost felt like the exact same thing, but a lot more sophisticated, where it wasn't so arbitrary of the switches, I guess they reset. Sorry, bro. It isn't like that at all. It's just you have to figure out, exactly how to get, the color you need and like which enemy you have to hit in which order. And then, if you have to, work on like the timing of it, because obviously you might have to make a jump or something, or you have to go underneath like a low clearing as it like warps over to you. So it's just like, it's really interesting how something as seemingly unnoticeable as when you throw it, it'll take some time to come back into your hand. That is a core part of the puzzles. Like, you have to take that part into account. And it's like, oh my God, like that's genius how they did that.
The funny thing about that, because if you remember back in Klonoa 1, the big issue was the switch puzzles, the ones at the end where you had to hit all 3 switches in quick succession and work out how to get yourself to be able to do that. And in this game, they have those puzzles in the Funhouse level, which I think is like level 4. And I remember telling Drew, I'm like, wow, they've got the switch puzzles already, and they're pretty easy. And Drew just kind of nodded. Didn't really say much, because I love that, something that was so fiendish in the first game is now just kind of, oh yeah, we have this, but no, we're getting it out of the way right now because we got this cooler idea with this color changing enemy. And what you said, Dork, I echo completely. The idea that you have to reposition yourself after you throw it because it takes a little while for the new color to come back to you. Like that's a game changer. And it's also responsible for the only time in the entire game where I had to look up a solution, because at the end of Maze of Memories, there's this puzzle where it uses the color changer. But the funny thing is, it uses a couple other enemies that have very specific, mechanics to them. But the way the puzzle is set up, I think it tricks your brain into thinking that there's only one way you can do it, when the solution is the other way that you're not thinking of, because you have this enemy that you needed to use to break the blocks in the first place. And I thought to myself, well, that's the only way I can get up there. But completely forgetting about, no, you can double jump with any enemy.
Yeah, I remember. So like we talked about this in Discord. In fact, I had a helpful Dave friend, because there are like 2 parts in the like Maze of Memories that I was kind of stuck on. And he's like, I wish I had a helpful Dave friend when I was stuck. But it was funny because after I realized he said like the magic word, I had to hear like, oh, because I think he said, oh, like once I realized I can, it doesn't have to be the same enemy I broke through the blocks with. I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. Like that's literally like, again, I shouldn't, I'm obviously being very hyperbolic here. I wouldn't say genius, but it's just so clever because it's such an easy trick. What an easy trick. Where it's just like, oh, you had to use a different enemy to break through it, and of course you're thinking that's the order of events. Keep doing it, and it's just, oh no, it was so clever. Yeah, 100%.
And I just got to say though that switch that you have to do in your brain, that's kind of 9 times out of 10 when I'm stuck on a puzzle in a game, it's because of that. My brain has gone down one path that this can be the only way the puzzle is solved. And yet I can't seem to work it out, when really the solution is to go, well, actually, you don't go down that path. There's this other path, this other way to do it that you've completely discounted because you're so gung-ho on that this is the only way to do it. And once often, the way to get out of that is to take that step back and go, oh, I'm an idiot. I mean, you shouldn't say that to yourself ever, even in jest, but that's usually the feeling that happens.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a earlier moment in the Maze of Memories, which kind of brings me back to the normal switches, because I completely agree with you guys. Like the way they implemented that enemy absorbing enemy for the crystal puzzles, that's like just so. It's so cool. Like, it's such a smart, clever idea. But they didn't completely neglect the switches, because those also kind of end up getting paired up with the bomb enemies or the hanging orbs a lot of the time.
True. Yep.
Because the hanging orbs are a new thing where you can, like, bounce off of them and, like, just hang in midair or whatever. Some of them move. But the bombs have been completely reworked from Klonoa 1, where now they're all on a timer, and so you're able to toss them and just keep grabbing them or bouncing off or using them to double jump until they explode. And they all have custom timers depending on the stage as well. or also denoted by color, I think. But so a lot of switch puzzles get used alongside the bombs, which there was that really tricky one. I got stuck in that like circular room in the Maze of Memories because that was the one that I had to look up the solution for because that just made no fucking sense to me. And they also obviously get used pretty well in the stage they're introduced in the factory stage. I also really liked, and the other big new enemy in this game is the like lightning jump one where you grab it, and when you do a double jump with it, it like shoots you up like double the height and this like really cool like lightning line. It looks really cool. You can smash through boxes and stuff. It's not like it changes your moveset or anything, but I think it's enough of a change of pace that it's always really enjoyable, like whenever it shows up, because you're like, yeah, I get to smash through some shit. I get to look for some secrets. I get to plow through stuff. There's also the
Well, I was gonna say, like, I didn't really care about the electric guy. I was like, okay, I mean, like my double jump's higher. All right, whatever. I feel like, hang on, no, you mentioned those fucking green orb shit.
Yeah.
Get him out of the game. Get him the fuck out of the game.
Oh.
Get those green orbs out of the fucking game. They are so you already have the cool tornadoes. Those are fine. Those are like, wee, woohoo, ha, cool. The fucking green orbs, oh my god. So, one of my huge problems with this game or this remake, I don't know. God damn it. The hitbox on your bullet does not need to be so strict. This game is difficult, but not in a way where it's like the enemies and the challenges are hard. It's because you're restricted so hard.
The bull in the PS2 version, the hitbox on hitting those green things is really tight. Most of my deaths from falling into a pit were missing the timing on grabbing one of those.
Really?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have guessed that.
That doesn't, I just wish it was like, I almost want it to be not a bullet and just like, hey, press the button to grab it. And it's like almost your whole, like model is approximately, the hitbox of it. Because honestly, half the time I'd miss it. It wasn't because of the horizontal. It wasn't because of my closeness away horizontally. It was if I was aligned with it on the y-axis. Because like I'd be like falling down and I'd be like, I should press it now. And I would be too high or be a little too low. And I'd be like, fuck this game, I died again. Also, it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't, you get an extra, it doesn't feel satisfying at all. At least the Twister stuff, it feels like you're kind of getting propelled. The green orbs feel so limp and terrible. I hated them from the moment I used the first one. I was like, is this what this game's going to lead off with? Because this is shit. I was really hoping it wasn't going to be a continued thing. I hate the green orbs. The red ones, we go back and forth. You know what that means? It means I gotta wait around sometimes. I don't want to be waiting around sometimes for you to come back, god damn it. What else? Yeah. What was the other thing you had to grab onto or something? Oh, yeah. Drew, you haven't asked this, so I'll wait for you to ask the next thing.
Okay. Sounds good. Here's a fun question. What do you guys think about the guys in the wall?
Guys in the... Oh!
Oh, yes! You're gonna love how I described this, Drew.
Oh, yeah?
I said, I love the Majora's Mask Great Bay Giant Eels.
They are... Oh my god, yes! That's exactly what those motherfuckers are. Jesus Christ. Oh, that makes me pissed off. I hate those guys. God, but I don't mind them because, one, you don't have to like fucking try to swim underwater with the N64 controller, no fucking like right stick. But I generally like these guys when they've got the like, you got to figure out how to plan ahead a little bit. It is kind of annoying. It does suck when you get sucked into their mouth because just like I don't know why the fuck video games do this. Like, they want to have, like, an eating attack animation, but it's always the longest animation in the world. Universally, this happens. This is something I'll fucking rant about. Why the fuck, anytime you get grabbed by an enemy, why can't it just be, like, a little fucking thing? Why does it always have to lock you into the longest animation of your life? I could fucking set my controller down and eat a whole fucking McDonald's hamburger and the whole fucking time that it takes for an animation like that to go through. Good lord, just fucking smack me and drop me. I don't give a shit. Anyway, but I liked when you had to toss enemies a little bit ahead. But I wish that sometimes there weren't, like, the first couple times you encounter those things, especially, like, I would just accidentally, like, walk into the hitbox and just get sucked in. And I was like, oh, I guess that's where the fucking hitbox is, apparently. There's not really any natural indicator. I did like the first time they show up, they have like a move spawn in and walk directly into it beforehand.
Mm-hmm. I noticed
that was pretty cute. But anytime like after that, whenever I would accidentally walk in, I'd just be like, God fucking damn it. But I don't know, conceptually they're not bad or anything. It was kind of weird when one showed up on the arc though. I was like, what are you doing here right now?
Yeah. It was so long. Because that level with the those guys is like one of the first levels you do in the game. And then suddenly, was it the Ark or was it the Ark Revisited that they...
I think it was the Ark Revisited.
Man. Oh,
and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here, dude? Get out of here.
So do you mind if we go back to levels? Because you asked about levels we liked a little while ago.
Yeah, go for it.
I will not stand for this. Just kidding.
So the reason my mind thinks of this when we're talking about those guys and the Ark Revisited is, so my favorite level in the entire game is Volk City. It's
a highlight.
It like combines everything I love about how this game makes levels. It has plenty of spectacle. Half of the game is bouncing on jump pads, and then the game goes to like an overhead view, and you have to find the next one, and it's rather rote, but I don't know, I just loved how it kept shifting. You had to jump into these cannons where you had to move the cannon to shoot up through the hole in the ceiling, and the last time you do that, you land on a train that's on fire. Well, I think the whole level's on fire by that point, but yeah, you got like bombardment in the streets, and stuff is blowing up behind you, and you keep going underground. And then I think that's the level that introduces the lightning jump enemies. So it's like, that's kind of cool. And it just got a really nice ebb and flow to it, that it was just like, after that, I'm like, well, that's the best level in the game. And it was like level 6 or 7. So I'm like, come on, game, prove me wrong. And there's only one level in my mind that came close, and I'll discuss that a little later. But the reason I bring up Volk City is that you have to go back to it, and I wrote in my notes, oh, Volk City, the level's so good they have us play it twice.
And that logic does not track for the Ark, though.
Oh
no, it does not.
The weird thing about the Ark is that, okay, I won't say I liked the first Ark level, but I found it so impressive because the thing was just one giant interconnected travel, right? Like when I and it's a long level, like I wrote in my notes, it's Moon Palace long. When I finished that level, I was relieved it was over, but I was like, how do you even conceptually put something together like that? Because it seemed like, it was so twisty and turny, and I didn't quite know where I was traveling and how, but the whole thing just kind of seamlessly worked as like a cohesive level. It was really spectacular. And then hours later, you go to the Ark Revisited, and it's not this sprawling interconnected level. It's like cut into little segments where you have to blow up engines. It's so chopped up, and then it's interspersed with like cutscenes or a really shitty plane section. I don't know why that was
annoying as hell. That was annoying as hell.
Like sometimes when you had to revisit a level, like when you revisit Lalashka, I think it's called, it does that poison mechanic where you have to go to the cleansing statues. Now, I know, Dork, you like that. I actually hate games that do like, get to the safe zone to avoid the poison. I just never liked those. But like that level was fine. It was almost like a cool inversion on what the original level was, because it was such an early safe level. Were there any other levels they did twice?
Yeah, the one right after that where you have to go back to the Seaway and you have to get the fireflies like in Crash Bandicoot or whatever.
Yeah, it was all dark.
Oh, that sucked.
Yeah. It stinks. This is something I wanted to bring up, is the idea of this story-driven game doing these remix stages is so fucking awesome and interesting, but the game kind of drops the ball with most of them. Like, even in Dave's case, where you guys like the Lalakusha one, and you're very generous, that's still like, what, 4 remix stages? That's still a score of 50 fucking percent. And I didn't even like the Lalakusha one, so really the only one I like is Volk City remixed.
Pretty much, yeah.
Alakusha... Sorry, I'm not sure what that one is.
That's the first one with the poison. That gets remixed to have the poison in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting how, because as you said, it's like a story-driven platformer, kinda.
It wants to be.
It wants to be.
Kind of,
and
yeah.
It's more impressive if they're able to have... See, in other games, when you, like, retread the same areas, but, like, something's different, in an actual, like, narrative game, it can have some sort of impact, but when it's so, like, divorced, it like, here's a level screen, it just feels like padding. But I'll have to say this, though, right? I love the idea of, like, remix or, like, just slightly, like, remade or tweaked levels in any game. And I think all of these would have been really cool if it was just like, okay, Klonoa 2 Side B, and all of them had, like, a different thing. Because then it'd be like, it wouldn't have to, be, like, so serious with the whole... Because, in fact, do any of them have a boss fight at the end?
No, but the only one is the Volk City one has, like, the boss you just fought chase you afterwards.
Right.
No,
that doesn't have a
okay.
boss fight in it.
I'm okay with that one because it happened immediately. It's like, okay, it's almost part of the story, and that's a great level already. But when it came to, like, the Seaside... Arc and Ikokusha. I'm not sure what you said. Lalakusha.
Yeah.
All those were just like, oh, I'm here again? It didn't really seem like a natural progression to that point. However, I will admit, I really wasn't paying that close attention to the story, so maybe it made sense.
It's true.
But, like, again, I think all those are fine levels. In fact, I kind of like the dark atmosphere of the Seaside one again. And I'm just thinking... Man, this game is so short, and I want it to be done, and you're gonna give me levels I already played again? Like, I was not in the right headspace to appreciate them as much as I could have. I also wanted to, like, round out our little added, like, gameplay stuff, because, like, the other one... Okay, so, Drew, I also want to put... I also really like the, like, monster that hops out of the, wall thing, Anitzia. I didn't really get a chance to... Yeah, so... It was the only time in any of each of the games where I'm like, this is kind of spooky. Like, this is... I could see, like, a kid playing this and being afraid of that, Like, that was really cool. It didn't, like, make you think a whole lot. I'd say it's nowhere near as good as the crystals in terms of using the core mechanics and, like, utilizing them to their fullest. You just kind of, like, toss an enemy. It isn't a huge thing. But
it's more of just like a momentary look before you leap sort of thing,
yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, the tension of them improves that, like, especially that, that opening level where they have all of them in there. That's really fun. So those are awesome. I also really like, surprisingly, even though I hated the... I shouldn't say hated. I didn't really care about the electric enemy that shot you up. I like the one where you hit it and you have to, like, reposition yourself and then shoots you all the way up.
Yeah, I love those because, yes, I do, because they use that in Volk City, and it's, like, fucking awesome, but I think they introduced those in Joyland, which is fucking stupid because you want to say Joyland, but instead they made it rhyme with Soylent, and that makes me want to kill myself.
Joyland Cola.
Yep. Yeah, but I really like those enemies because it's like you grab it shoots the camera below you so you can reposition, and then you fly up in the air and you circles the camera around so you can see this huge area below you that you're about to fall down onto.
It feels
and every single time it's like they show you like the biggest thing, the new biggest thing in the game, and you're like, holy shit, all of this was loaded in the whole fucking time, what the hell? And it's, like, fucking awesome.
I was just impressed because, it feels a lot like the other kind of cannons where you hop in and, like, they just shoot you somewhere else. It's kind of similar, but because I think you have to shoot it and you have control of it a bit, it feels a lot more satisfying. It doesn't feel as much of a transition, even though it is a transition. But at times you can actually, like, I think it was it the Ark Revisited? I think it was like a level you went back to. I think it was the first part of the Ark Revisited, where you had to kind of go back up and down a few times, and I was like, this is really cool. This is just like a thing in the level you have to use. It isn't just like a transition device.
Yeah, it's not just a set piece sometimes. Yeah, it is really clever how versatile they're willing to be with each of the different enemy types. I think like the enemies are like definitely some of the best parts of Klonoa's gameplay because obviously it's got puzzle elements. So just them rethinking the behavior of each enemy from between the first and second game, it really does add a lot to be like to show that they were trying to really kind of push things forward, not just like graphically. They like really did want to try slightly different puzzles.
There was also the one, I think there's two more. There's one where you tapped jump and you had like a little helicopter thing. You know, like a...
Oh, yes.
The hat thing made you kind of flutter. That was fine. It didn't
It was
add much,
fine.
but...
A little frustrating, I would actually say, but not like offensively bad. I don't know. There were just sections with it. I was like, I don't feel like the momentum works quite right. And then there were the sections where they're like, oh, just like waffle around here with this thing and get all the little gems. I'm like, no, because I feel like if I do that, I'm going to miss one and then the thing's going to poof and I'm just going to die instantly. So I will not be doing that. But thank you for the opportunity, Klonoa.
And then there was the hardcore versions of those, the blue ones, where you get to wind them yourself and kind of take off for a little while.
Those ones I don't mind so much. I think they're kind of cute. Yeah.
Which one?
They have the little toy line design.
Were those
they're
close
little
to the
like
end?
they're like the triangle guys. They were in the first game as well, I think.
They show up in the funhouse first. When you got across like that bridge with the, I think it's like crocodiles jumping at the screen.
I think so. Yeah.
I noticed they also altered how like the trampolines work, because I mean in the first game it was like you had to jump with them, and now they have just some ones where you just always bounce on them, which isn't.
Oh,
unless that wasn't the first game.
We'll get to those.
Oh, that's fun. Sick. I didn't realize.
We'll get to those. But I'm going to
Sweet.
save that talking point for a place where it's very relevant to talk about why they are annoying as fuck. Most of the time, I don't mind them horribly. They're not like the most dynamic or crazy thing in the world. But there's one point in the game where I'm like, this should not have been here.
I love
Straight
it.
up.
I have the perfect transition for us then, because I think there's only one more big addition we have to talk about, and it really ties into us talking about more levels, right? The snowboarding.
The snowboarding! Oh my god!
Add like a metal track there.
Yeah!
Well, it was 2001.
That's right when Shaun White... Wait, no. How come 2001 has any significance in snowboarding?
Late 90s and early 2000s had a lot of extreme, sports characters, games.
True,
that's when Tony Hawk came out.
And shit. Yeah, you put Final Fantasy X in your PS2 and you watch the opening cutscene and you're like, oh, this is going to be very fantastical. And then the fucking Blitzball opening plays and they start playing fucking Screamo in the background and you're like, what the fuck is this? This is kind of awesome, I think.
My new favorite band.
My new favorite.
I love this genre of music.
I love this genre of music. And then you put in fucking Sonic Adventure and like 9/11 happens and they're playing butt metal in the back and it's awesome.
Wow. It just always loops back to 9/11, doesn't it?
It always loops back to Sonic, more importantly.
You bring up the snowboarding because that snowboarding level, which I'm going to say is the only snowboarding level, because otherwise you're on the sand or you're in the water or you're just on land.
True.
But the snowboarding level has my favorite music track in the game.
No!
It's just so weird.
I hate you two. I hate you two so much.
Dorkaxe, can I tell you something? You something, Dorkaxe? Every time you got in this, you're like, I can't believe they put this chibi shit in the background. What the fuck is this? And I'm sitting here like, you know what's really funny about you describing it as chibi? Is that chibi describes an art style in which the proportions of characters are comically exaggerated in order to give them a cute appearance. Now, Dorkaxe, what does that have to do with the musical composition?
Oh, Drew just actually like... your ass.
You gotta give me a chance to respond, Dave. I think I had something good cooking. Listen, all right? I think what you said is exactly what I mean. This is like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Wait. It sounds like the singers and people who are performing the songs are tiny.
Okay, and so now you're just gonna shit on Alvin and the Chipmunks? What the fuck did they ever do to
every
you?
day? You weren't alive when it was non-stop on the radio. I don't think I was either, but
what are you talking about? I'm 5 years younger than you. What the hell are you
when
talking
I was in the
about?
old folks' home back when I was
When I was at the old folks' home and they made me play Wii Bowling, they were putting
Alvin
on
and the
Alvin
Chipmunks
and the
back in the
every day.
80s was non-stop.
So when I was a kid, I had a tape of Alvin and the Chipmunks singing popular songs on the radio.
Yeah. Dude, what the fuck are we even talking about? This song just kicks too much
Chibi,
ass.
it's terrible. It's the worst
The fuck
song.
it is.
First of all,
So great.
the soundtrack of the game overall kind of sucks.
What? The fuck is your problem?
It is so much worse than Klonoa
Get
1.
banked.
Bro,
I'm so
Chick,
fucking mad right
listen.
now.
Oh,
Listen.
bomb drop.
You're
Listen,
telling me. Listen to me. Listen to me. You're telling me when Klonoa belts out Wafi Utu Rirana Wafi Rupu Rurana Seafoodi. You're telling me that's not the deepest shit you've ever fucking heard in your life? You're telling me that doesn't have the power to fucking change souls, rejuvenate dead eyes, remove mountains, part the Red Sea? You're telling me it doesn't have the fucking emotional ability to do all that? What the fuck are you talking about?
No.
Oh my god.
Now,
You're not
listen,
gonna tell me
Drew, listen,
Klonoa 2
listen.
soundtrack sucks. Come on.
I came around to the Maze of Memories song because at first I was like, this kind of sucks, but then Dave's like, well, I thought so too, until Drew had me listen to it in isolation. And I was in that level for a while because I'm an idiot. So, sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. I was in that level for a while because I'm a dumbass. And listen, right? I did come around, but and you know what sucks? Oh, the Ark Revisited song is just trash.
Oh no, that one is.
It's just.
No, that one is.
It's people banging
not
on
great.
drums. It's garbage. That's the
not
whole
great.
soundtrack, Drew.
I
it's
think I'm in between you guys actually because like aside from the snowboarding level and the Volk City jazz track, which is really cool, and Maze of Memories, Drew brought me around on, and you know what? Even though it was very ambient, I didn't mind the first Ark music, but most of the soundtrack didn't actually make any impression on me whatsoever. Like it was just background. I didn't notice it at all, basically.
No,
Well-
that means you have my stance, but you just flipped on me with the whole snowboarding level. I think that's the only difference. That's why it's so much worse, because it literally all just sounds like the most typical Unity platform shit in the background. It's like this was. You know what, Drew? I'm sorry. I think I'm making you mad. I should stop.
Dorkaxe. Objection! Did you or did you not 2 minutes ago say the songs in this game suck and the only reason that I turned around on the Maze of Memory song is because I actually listened to it? Got him. And I win. And I literally win.
What? I don't get it. How does that win?
Because you were like, oh, I actually listened to it, and then I realized it was good. Bass.
So you're claiming I just haven't been. I haven't been listening to any of this.
Yeah.
My guy, I've listened to that snowboarding song many times because, and now we're going to transition back into the gameplay. Listen, right, the remake momentum when it comes to the double jump on the snowboard sucks. And there's so many obstacles that no, it's not tricky, it's dumb. Listen, Drew, listen to me. I'm just being a dick, but listen. No, for realsies, all right? I love it. In all the snowboarding, in all the boarding levels, Happy Dave, and all the hoverboarding levels, when you can just do a jump and you know, that one jump can clear a gap, can clear, you know, an obstacle. That feels really good. I'm like, dude, I'm rad, snowboarding, rad, fuck yeah. But the moment it has obstacles where it wants you to double jump, it completely kills it for me. It's like, why would you remove my momentum? I'm totally not rad, totally not having fun. This is totally not tubular.
That's fair. I think I wouldn't say the momentum is perfect by any stretch, but there's definitely if you play it, like, I'm not saying like, oh, you should have just played the stage multiple times. That's not what I'm saying. I agree with you. But there definitely is like a higher skill ceiling to the board because you can pull back on the stick.
Did you just tell me to get good in Klonoa terms?
No, that's not what I was That's not what I was attempting to say
Listen,
at all.
Dork,
That's not what I was
replay that
attempting to say at
snowboarding
all.
level 5 more times, listen to that song, then you'll get it!
Then you will get it because you'll listen to it and you'll get it.
I'm maybe going to put a foot in Dorkaxe's camp here because I think the reason that the snowboarding song is so memorable to me and made such an impression is because it's so different. It sticks out where most of the rest of the music did not stick out at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great creative choice. I think that's why I like it so much. Is it's like, they were like, here, let's take a big risk. Let's do something completely different.
You know what, Drew? This song is why the game sold so fucking poorly. This is why Klonoa is not a series that sells well. Take a risk, Drew says, to the detriment of Namco.
To the detriment of all of Namco. You're so right. This game fucking leveled cities. This song leveled cities. This song caused volcanoes to erupt across Japan. I like that idea. Like it's playing over like a speaker and like buildings are like crumbling to the ground.
That sounds like a really awesome like skit from Family Guy or something.
Hey
Lois, remember that when that one fucking chibi song from Klonoa 2 destroyed half of Japan?
Peter,
and then they just cut to it?
Peter, I do remember that. Oh, yes. This episode is fucking insane. Anyway, but yeah, the snowboard levels, yeah, they're very unique. I think actually, Dorkaxe, yeah, when you were describing it, I think I tend to agree with you more so. And it stinks. It's kind of like the remix stages in that, you know, it's not like I actively dread whenever one shows up, but there are some portions in the level, like I would hit portions in some of the snowboarding levels, especially I think the sand one where it kind of just started stressing me out. Like I was like, oh, this is... I'm starting to I'm getting some pit sweats here. This is really kind of bringing me to my knees because it can be a little bit finicky. They can be a little bit demanding, and I don't really feel like any of the normal levels, even the really annoying ones. I'd be like, okay, I could probably go back and get all the doll parts or whatever. But the snowboarding levels, like I had a good time with them the first time through. Like they were a good challenge, but would I replay them over and over again? I think I agree with you that I would not.
That's a really good point. I was actually thinking when I was playing them, I was like, I'm having a really good time with these like later ones. I said like the later levels are, you know, like the later snowboarding levels are the best ones. But I was even thinking, man, I'm not grabbing all of the collectibles. It would be annoying if I was a completionist with this game because it's like, oh, I missed one. Let's go try to get it again. You have to restart the whole level.
Yeah. I just want to say with the snowboarding, when I patched my PS2 emulator and I wanted to test the game out, the level that I chose was the final boarding level, the level number 2 of the Sorrowlands, because I think it is my second favorite level after Volk City, but it has my favorite moment in the entire game where you enter a cave and suddenly you've got this 360-degree movement. You can go around the funnel. You're on the inside of a cylinder, and you actually have to kind of navigate around that space. And maybe it's just awe-inspiring on the PS2 and not so much on the remake, but it looked great. It felt great because I actually didn't have the snowboarding issues you talk about, Dork, on the PS2 version. I just had the fear that if I fell or hit anything, the emulator would crash. So, but yeah, that level and that, I don't know, there's just something about that moment in that tunnel especially that's just like, that was peak of the game for me.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. That whole, well, I think we've already talked about it. The whole ending sequence is amazing. I agree. That whole snowboarding level, I think, I couldn't believe it because I was so ready when I got into the Sorrowland area because I kind of felt like Klonoa 1 had a few more levels at the end than I was kind of expecting, and I was thinking they're going to go harder with that because it seems like platformers kind of do that where it isn't my all-time favorite genre, and I always feel like that was a good game. Oh, okay, we're still going. That was a good. Oh man, we're still going, huh? That's what I was expecting. And then it was just like, yeah, here's one really, really good platforming level. Then snowboarding. I'm like, oh, dude, this is great. And I was expecting one more platformer level at least. And then it went right into the freaking snowboarding boss. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can't believe it. Yeah, that was a great moment where you have to like, well, I guess what I'm more thinking about is the actual boss. So I'll hold off on that part. But yeah, I mimic all your feels.
Before we move on from levels, I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't talk at least a little bit about Joylent and the Maze of Memories specifically, because I think those are two other really big highlights of the game. Especially Joylent, because there's just so much stuff going on that you don't even like necessarily have to interact with just to get through the level. But you can tell they really did want it to feel like a theme park, because you can just go do some extra stuff and like do like a little like rodeo or whatever. There's the fucking ball toss game where you can just grab unlimited enemies to like hit eggs that just mimics a ball toss. And just the fucking, just having a whole section like in a haunted house is also just like really fun.
Yeah.
It's fun change of pace for the back half of the level. And platforming over an actual roller coaster, like that's just really enjoyable. Like it's just a really cute level.
Yeah, it's probably my third favorite in the game. Just because, I guess, of the spectacle. I talked earlier about just watching the fireworks when they were going off. It's one of those levels that really is almost showing off the game because it's still a pretty early level. It's like, hey, look at all the shit we can do. And it's just very novel. I actually didn't like the roller coaster bit when I first went into it because I thought I had to jump on the coasters and, like jump between them. And then I jump down on one and it hits me. I'm like, oh, I've got to avoid them? Well, that kind of sucks. that brings in the floaty jump. Now, Dork, the floaty jump on the PS2 is probably not as bad as it is on the remake, but it still doesn't feel good. It always feels like you're going to fall before you do. Yeah,
I agree. It doesn't feel great, but I honestly, though, I think out of everything between the Klonoa 1 remake and the Klonoa 2 remake, it feels really, really similar to me. So for me, it wasn't a huge deal. I think it's just all the hitbox and the bullet, honestly, for me. I can, live with the double jump. I just wish it wasn't even a thing in the snowboarding levels.
And then the Maze of Memories is just, I think that's my personal favorite stage in the game. Just the very abstract atmosphere. There's a lot of people credited in this game as working on the backgrounds, and you can really see it in this stage because there's just so much going on. I wanted to be really pretentious in my notes, and I said this is probably as close to a non-Euclidean space as a game can get, but that obviously doesn't make any fucking sense because video games are made out of fucking polygons. But it does truly feel like an abstract space. It feels out of an abstract painting. It's another kind of funhouse level in a way, but just the very chill atmosphere kind of gives it it just gives it a very unique feeling. It's just such a special location in this game, and you can't really compare it to a whole lot in a lot of other games. There are analogs just because there's so many video games that exist, but it just truly feels special going through it, especially for the first time when you don't know everything that's going to be in it. And there's so many good little touches, the room where there's laughter that starts playing out of nowhere and you don't have the context for it yet, so you're just what the fuck.
And the big mirror.
The big mirror. Yeah, huge mirror, and just stuff flipping upside down all the time with the magic doors. It truly feels like a maze, and just the whole atmosphere of it. It just is truly incredible.
Yeah.
Something else about it is I saw a fan theory that this might be Klonoa's home world that follows him around, because it does seem like it kind of doesn't really belong here in Lunatea or whatever.
Well, and there's also the thing about when they first enter into it, there are people in there that are kind of just stay there because they're kind of trapped in their own memories, and it has kind of a sinister edge to it almost.
And And the other big piece is the Wonder Swan game is called Moonlight Museum, and the song that plays in this stage is titled Moonlight Museum. So that's also kind of a very tenuous tie. Obviously, I don't think Klonoa is the type of series that would really ever give what Klonoa's homeworld is like a definitive answer. I don't think that it's the type of series that would do that sort of thing, but I think that's a really cool fan theory. I think that's really cute.
I'm like reading like the dialogue of like the opening resident of the area, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it almost kind of reminds me of the ending. So, of like the story part. So we'll have to get to the story at some point, right? But
at some point.
But because if you get to talk about the whole like fan theory thing, here's my theory. All right, Drew, trying to cut me off here. Well, I was gonna say like the resident was like saying that like they're like obsessed with looking at their old memories, and is this just like related to like them not trying to acknowledge sorrow in a way where they're just kind of like nostalgically like looking back at their old memories instead of trying to acknowledge you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think that's
it's
probably what they were going for, especially because that takes place in like, what do they call it? Like the kingdom of like isolation or like division or whatever the fuck it is.
Indecision.
So in that sort of way, like being nostalgic kind of keeps you from making definitive decisions in the present as well. So that could, I definitely think you're onto something there. I agree with you.
I'm so smart. Oh my god.
Dude, you're kind of actually a freaking genius for that.
Okay, yeah. Thanks. Shut up.
Let's just go ahead and we're going to go through the boss fights, and then I'll, of course, bring them up linearly, and then we'll say our fucking... Why the fuck did I look up the lyrics for the snowboarding song? That's so stupid. I just have to click over to the tab and fucking see gibberish on my screen. What the hell was my problem?
This podcast is brought to you by Butt Muffins, the only muffin that has 2 buns and a cherry in the middle.
And we also, to help with your butt health, it's made of bran. Use code DaveDorkDrew15 for 15% off a butt muffin.
And now, to play us out, the Butthole Surfers.
Fucking surf
I don't
rock.
mind the sun sometimes, even when it shows. I can taste you on my lips and sell you my toes.
Anyway, back to the show.
Welcome back to Post Game Clarity. So before we go to the bosses, I wanted to say one last thing about the general gameplay, at least of the remake. Again, I haven't played the original, so Dave, if this is at all different, I almost wanted to have you test it for me, because I tested it and it's so fucking dumb. So the other like bugaboo I have with the remake is the slippery movement. So there's this one part where I was trying to get an egg, and I had to like drop down to grab an enemy with the with the bullet, and basically I kept failing to grab the enemy, you know, over and over and over, you know, and eventually I was able to finally get it. But then the one time I got it and I walked over to the place I had to throw it, oh my god, the slippery momentum fucking reared its head again, and I freaking had to throw it down to save myself from falling off the edge. So I had to double jump because I slipped off the edge. What is with this movement? Because it seems like if you hold left, hold right, whatever, like you're moving, you're running, and then you want to stop moving, you let go of the control stick. Sometimes Klonoa will stop immediately, and sometimes he'll kind of go, like he'll slide a bit after you're done. And it's never consistent. I've done some testing on this where I've used the exact same spot. I wanted to see if it was because the camera was like panning at the same time. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I could never figure it out, and it kept causing me to do like, you know, like if you approach a ledge in a fucking platformer game, you're gonna want to know, you know, how to time like your movement. So at times I'd want to stop right before the ledge, and Klonoa would go a little too far because he wasn't done slipping and sliding, I guess. And other times he would land exactly where I wanted to, on a dime. I have no explanation for this. Is this how it is in the original, Dave?
No. I mean, there are times where I felt the movement was, as you put it, slippery, but maybe it's because, you know, I was using the D-pad on my Xbox Series X controller because Well, that's the way the game worked. If you use the analog stick, it doesn't register. And coming back to the game during the snowboarding level, I forgot about that. I'm like, why won't he move? But from my memory, I mean, I'd have to maybe look at my footage, but it's pretty much 1-to-1.
That's a rip for me, dog. So, Drew, you didn't have any of this when you were playing the remake twice?
I would say definitely the movement isn't great sometimes. But also, I'm pretty, I don't know, I guess just like in platformers, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to like finagle around in the fucking air. Like, I don't know. There's just something about the fucking, the chimp in the back of my brain just takes over. I'm like, okay, this is just how it like moves. I never had a point. There were definitely times where I was like, I'm a little bit annoyed with how Klonoa is moving right now, but it never like tipped me off as like awful.
This is really interesting because you are so platform oriented. You've played a ton of platformer games, right? Like that is like one of your like comfort genres, correct?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm really curious then, because like all these problems, you may have been like dealing with them, but like for you, it wasn't that you couldn't identify them. It was that they weren't even a problem because you're just so used to platformers and you're just like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm really, really excited to see how you fare when you play Demon Souls, because I feel like you might have some problems because that game is kind of jank to some people. But even like now, like I was going back for footage and I'm just like, yeah, it's whatever. So I'm really curious to see if we have the exact same but opposite when it comes to Demon Souls.
I'm really interested for that discussion because kind of my frame of reference for going into that is going to be like more or less like Ocarina of Time. I think is probably the closest thing I have experienced with from what I know about Demon Souls. So I think that'll be really interesting too.
That will be really fun then. Yeah, I can't wait for that. I had one more thing to say about I guess two more things to say. One, when you're not into this game, and like I mean that in like at times I was just like, yeah, I'm playing it because I gotta play it. Man, Klonoa just moves so slow.
He does. He does move a little bit leisurely.
It isn't a problem when you have to do a puzzle or when there's things happening, but it's really noticeable when there's not much going on and you have to move from point A to B, even if it's just one screen. I'm just like, oh my god, Klonoa, you move so slowly in this platforming game. And two, this is so specific, but we haven't talked about this level in depth yet, but please bear with me. This is the first Sorrow level. Are we okay to talk about this a little more in depth right now?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more, yeah.
There is one part where I just didn't know what I was supposed to do. I kept walking back and forth on the platform. Yep, there's a big giant enemy in like the background. It's great. I don't have any enemy like to throw at him. I don't know what's going on. I walk back to the edge. Nothing. Walk back and forth. Can't open that door. Walk back to the edge. Nothing. No. The fucking bastards. They literally wanted you to take a leap off of a ledge where you can't even see down there, and then the chase sequence starts. This is the first of the chase sequences where like the big enemies are behind you chasing you. I tested this because I eventually like died in it. You have to go like 1 inch because you can't see below that ledge. It looks like a drop. It looks like that's not where you're supposed to go. Instead, they're like, we're not gonna trigger this little, cutscene thing until you fucking decide to just throw yourself over the edge for no reason. It's so stupid.
Well, that one is.
Do you guys not remember this at all?
No, I know what you're talking about. I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, but I'm pretty sure the first one they actually like lock you into that jump off as well to trigger the chase.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
it's really weird. Like it locks you into a scripted thing for out of nowhere for no reason because they knew you probably weren't going to do that on your own. Yeah.
Guys, watch this. Hang on. I have my little like video thing up here, right? And I'm going to screenshot this and I'm going to send this to you. So I happen to go exactly where I was like testing this out. The cutscene doesn't trigger yet, and you can see there's just a ledge.
You're really close to the edge.
The cutscene didn't trigger yet. The chase didn't trigger yet. You want to know where it actually triggers?
Like one step closer.
It's one more step. You. How am I the only one upset about this? This is so stupid.
Well, if you just give me a second, actually, I've been trying to find it in my footage just to see if it did the same thing.
Sure. And as a small contrast too, by the way, hang on. So after this, as he chases you, because again, if it's a platform that you are able to see, you're supposed to hop off. It'll look like this, right? It'll look like there's the next area, but it doesn't have that in the area right before it. It's just this. It's just this humongous. Oh, if I jump down there, I'm probably gonna die. So why wouldn't they at least show you that there's a floor you're supposed to jump down? Why wouldn't they take control of you way sooner so that the trigger point is way before it? There are so many ways to fix this, and I spent 3 minutes here going back and forth. And I know 3 minutes isn't that much time, but dude, come on.
I think the best solution, there would just have the enemy jump like sooner. Like probably right where you're standing in that screenshot, would just have the enemy jump there.
Sure.
Because they want to catch you off guard. Because at first thinking, I don't know, maybe they pan the thing behind Klonoa, but then they can't really show the enemy like jumping out behind you properly or something. So they probably just should have had to jump sooner. I do agree with you, but I think also my instinct is kind of just like, I would just probably like keep going right and they'll probably like do something. But I guess that's just because that's how my brain is. I mean, I did play the game before, so I guess that's kind of it too.
Yeah, again, if you turn your brain off and you go hold right to win, then yeah. But it's just, I am so... Okay, this is the last thing I'll say about the game, right? In like the Remake 1, I was on normal mode for both of them. They just upped the damage in this game, so now everything is a whole heart of damage. And I was dying a lot more often, and it would make every little small annoyance more frustrating because it's just like, oh, I can't afford to get hit now. I was just thinking, I can't afford to lose more lives. I don't want to start this level over again, kind of thing, So I knew I was going to take damage somewhere else. However, also, Dave, I'm curious. Then again, you had to save states, so you might not even know. If you do as bad as I do after a while, the game just throws you golden coins after a while. I was just like, listen... No, it's serious. At one point, I had a triangle, 3 of them. It's like, listen, you're not gonna die, bud. You're not gonna die. I'm like, okay.
Well, what happened with me was because I couldn't afford to die because that would crash the emulator. Every time I saw a gold coin, it was just like, well, I'm going to collect it, but this is ridiculous. I think I ended the game with like 50 lives.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Because you technically never lost one.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah. That's really funny.
No, I did once. There was one time in the game where it didn't crash when I died. I'm like, oh, is it fixed? And then the next time it happened, it crashed again.
Oh, fuck.
Classic. With all that said, I think it's time to mosey on over to the bosses. The best part of Klonoa 1, not the best part of Klonoa 2.
I think that I would agree with you. I think some of my favorite bosses kind of end up being tied to story beats that I really enjoyed. But the bosses themselves were like, they range in this game. I would say they range from just kind of decent, like kind of like what Dork was saying last time about the fucking Gelgbolm flower thing, where it's like, this is just kind of a boss. Like, it's just kind of like a platforming boss. And then there's the couple of them that are like truly like fucking awesome. But yeah, let's start with fucking, the first one is Fulgarian the Armor Beast. Now, I don't fucking know what makes something an armor beast. Maybe this is the game being like, yeah, we're like Evangelion, so what? But in this boss fight, it has a fucking weak spot and it's asshole, and you have to hit it, and then it spins around, and you can't actually get extra damage if you hit the butthole a second time while it spins faster, but that's obviously an incredibly tight window. But still a really cool bonus.
Like his butthole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, that's true.
A tight
that's
window,
awesome.
if you know what we're saying, folks. Pride Month. It was last month.
This is not getting released anywhere fucking close to Pride Month.
What are you? It's not so like right. Releasing this in December, bro. Like, it's literally like a few weeks later.
That's a good point.
Nowhere close, says Drew.
Yeah, it was almost 2 weeks ago.
If you think about it, it's 11 months away. The furthest it could possibly be.
That's actually a great point. Yeah. We've got pride in our hearts and in our minds, but not in our buttholes. Not in our buttholes, unfortunately, because it's not Pride Month anymore. Right. But so that's what you do in this boss fight. Guys, where do you have Fulgarin the Armored Beast ranked on your boss ranking?
Oh, I have it at 5. Dave?
For me, it is at 6. I will say I don't dislike this boss, but it's kind of like in Klonoa 1. The first boss is kind of forgettable because it's so simple.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Yeah, I think there's not a whole lot to say. Like I said, I already laid it out. It's kind of cool. You can get a second butthole pound in, which is cool to give the player some agency. But other than that, this is just kind of like a boss fight. Yeah.
And Drew, where do you rank it?
That's right. I've got it at 5 as well. Yeah,
Nice.
I think it's definitely on the lower end. But like I said, I don't think any of the pun entirely flipping intended. But like I said, I don't think any of the bosses in this game are like offensively bad, except for my 6 and 7, actually. But yeah,
Interesting.
it's just kind of a boss.
Oh, hang on. I'll actually do some defending for it. I like this boss because I think, even in the remake, I don't know how it feels, obviously, in the original, but throwing an enemy on, like, this Band-Aid, weak spot, hit me here, please. It's just, I don't know how they do it. Like, it feels really satisfying. I really like to hit the Band-Aid, and what game had, like, an X Band-Aid? Was it like Rayman 2? I'm pretty sure it was that game.
Oh, a lot of platformers do that thing, yeah.
Yeah, or it was like an actual, like, here are 2 Band-Aids, you know?
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it was Rayman 2. It feels great, and it's just like, it's just lovely. And also, yeah, I really like that you can still hit it, like the hitbox is still present when it spins fast. Mm-hmm. They could have easily made it so it's like, it's spinning fast, it's just got a shield. It's like, shut up.
You just reminded me, Dork. Something I did was shocking about the first boss, and it kind of caught me out on subsequent bosses, is that it has a phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, first boss, it's not like oh my god, phase 2, but like I was shocked when it happened because I did think, oh, this is very easy, and then I destroyed it within a minute or so, and then suddenly the new health bar appears. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then on the next fight, I'd forgotten about the phase 2, so when it happened in there, I'm like, oh, that's right, there's phase 2. I think by the third one I had caught on, but it was one of those things where I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. So like the multiple phase bosses, it's nice. I'd say, I think a few of them have like a secondary health bar to go with it, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think this one does it? I think it's just half the health gone.
Well, it does on the PS2 version.
Oh, okay. I was watching it back, and it almost just looks like after half of its health is gone, it's like, new phase, and it's like, okay. In fact, it looks like how it is for the next one, too, so maybe it's just...
I could be wrong about that, but we'll have footage to either call me a liar or prove my point.
True. Yeah, it was good. I almost wish... See, it is really easy. I kind of wish it was longer, in a way, because it's... Even when I was doing the boss rush mode, which is a cool addition, I'll admit, but I just wish all the bosses were better, to make that mode a little more fun.
Mm.
It's just like, I can get through it so quickly, and it's like, I wish it had, a new health bar, too, with the second phase. I just want it to go a little longer, because it's good enough,
Mm-hmm.
We can move on now. We don't have to spend this much time on this boss.
on the first boss, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a slightly more exciting boss. Leptio the Flower Clown is the second boss in Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil, which released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2. Dave, where do you have Leptio the Flower Clown on your boss ranking?
Well, I have it written as Lepito, and I don't know if either of us are right or wrong. But
the wiki says Leptio.
It is okay. Leptio, Dave. I'm looking right at it.
Okay. Well, I got 2 letters mixed up when I wrote it, so fair enough. I have it at number 3.
I've got it at number 3 as well.
Oh, Well, nice job, you two. I have it at number 4. Yeah, this one is fun. Also, Dave, you are right. This one has, it has 2 phases and also 2 health bars, which makes it last a little longer. It's really cool how in the first phase you can just, again, it's like fair. It gets quicker and quicker, but you can keep hitting him as quickly as you can keep hitting him.
Yeah.
You hit him, he goes the other way. If you're fast enough, you can get him right away. You don't have to jump over him. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the mechanic of this boss fight, the back and forth roly-poly, that caught me out on some of the later boss fights, because some of the later boss fights have an electrical ball that goes around the arena. And when I was trying to work out how to damage the boss, because I remembered Leptio, I would throw a thing into the ball and it would go the other way faster. And I kept trying to, get it to a point where maybe it popped up and hit the boss, but it never happened. They're just hazards that you can use that they behave the same way. It just doesn't do anything.
My favorite part of the fight has to be the second phase where he gets in the spike thing. Most Klonoa bosses are like either you hit it in the background or you throw items side to side. But this game gets you to do both, because you have to knock this guy on his side and then toss an enemy into the background to actually damage him in the spike tube. And I think that's just a lot of fun, and it keeps you moving because he's rolling obviously too. So I think that's a lot of fun.
I do think it has the small issue that the Joka fight had, where it's just getting the exact right angle on it is a little bit tricky, and not in a this is awesome tricky way. But I'd say overall though, it doesn't really drag it down. It's a cool concept, hitting on its side and then having to work out to hit him in the middle of it. I think that's just kind of clever, because there's only one angle where you can even see him in there. So at first I was like, what's going on? Oh, there he is. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable. And the first phase, he kind of does the classic illusion clone thing. So many platformers do this. But it's still pretty fun to figure out which one is the real one. It's one of those things where I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing this type of shit, but it's never offensive to me, but it's just kind of okay. But the second phase, I think truly, that's a really creative, fun idea. Yeah, anything else to say about Leptio?
No.
I'm curious to see how his stage looks on the PS2 version. In fact, I'm curious to see how the entirety of the Joylant area looks in the PS2 version. Because honestly, again, on the remake, it's yep, this is Unity. I'm curious to see how it looks when it's here's a PS2 game with a cool visual style, and not just everything. Because it's the lighting. Everything is always lit. I was just thinking as I was watching a small part of that one Joyland level that I was like, if certain areas were a little bit darker than others, it would look cooler. But everything almost has the exact same lighting. It's just it makes everything seem so flat.
Right. Yeah. You might have cracked it, because when I was talking about Joyland at the start of the podcast, watching the fireworks, just the visuals in that level and the visuals in Volk City and Maze of Memory, so many levels just were just beautiful to just take in on the PS2.
I cracked it like I was Professor Layton. Is that a good reference?
No.
All right, let's talk about Tat for 2 seconds.
Who gives a shit about this fucking piece of shit?
Where do you got it ranked, Dork?
Super Tatbot, you mean?
Yeah.
Out of 7?
Yep.
7.
And Dave, where do you got this play?
Well, let me just preamble by saying the best thing about Tat is the way Klonoa says their name.
Yeah.
Tat! But
yeah. He's always so mad about it.
When I was looking up the boss fights this morning to make the list, I'd forgotten this was a boss fight. So yeah, it's at number 7.
Guess what, guys? I have Super Tatbot at number 6.
Whoa!
Drew,
but
I'm going to throw hands with you, because that means you have one of the... Unless it's Mobile Tank, I'm going to freak out. Whatever number 7 is, I'm going to freak out.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
If it's Mobile Tank, I'm going to be mad at you for one reason that should become apparent.
Well, guys, let's find out. Where do you guys have Bizkarsh, the mobile tank Bizkarsh ranked on your ranking?
Okay, so in my notes, I wrote, "Oh, this is just a Galg Bomb reskin."
Oh, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Oh, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Where do you guys got it ranked?
For me, it's number 5.
Okay.
For me, it's number 6.
For me, it's number 7. You guys got my goat.
What?
Or whatever the fuck
But the
expression
Galg Bomb
is.
was your favorite boss. in Klonoa 1.
Oh, well, it's so simple how one small change to a boss's design can completely fucking wreck it. Do you want to guess what the fuck
No.
it is?
Yes, I know. You alluded to this earlier in the podcast. If avid listeners, if you remember, Drew specifically said, we'll get to those frickin' trampoline things later. That's the difference. It's because trampolines automatically jump you and you don't control them. Right?
Mm-hmm. And it's also that they change the camera angle and throw you all the way fuck up in the air so you can't fucking see anything. When Mobile Tank Bizkarsh is moving around from the foreground to the background. And don't even get me started about trying to judge the fucking depth perception on the tire move. And how the fuck is Klonoa getting hurt by fucking tires? It's not like he's even moving that fast. What the fuck is his problem? I bet if Klonoa was fucking walking around in suburbia with a speed limit of 15 miles an hour, he'd still get his fucking skull smashed in because apparently his bones are fucking hollow. Anyway, so yeah, I hate this boss. This boss sucks.
Christ.
So yeah, that one change really does ruin the fight. It really stinks.
This does make a little bit of sense because I was thinking, I wonder if they chose Mobile Tank as the worst because, it's like, you aren't as good as my favorite, therefore, this is an offense to my favorite one, No,
it's not even necessarily that I find them repeating the general idea offensive. It genuinely is just like, I was actually like, my heart rate, I wrote this in my notes, like my heart rate rose from getting jerked around all over the place visually from the fucking trampolines. It was a stressful fight because it just jerks you all over the place.
You were right because most of the time I was like, how did that hit me? It was very hard to get through that fight unscathed. And I had the additional problem of, well, if I die, I'm screwed.
So it's just like a bunch of like issues where it's just like you guys didn't even understand what made this type of boss fight good to begin with. I will say I did like getting chased by this boss fight in the following stage, but yeah, the initial fight, whatever. And I will agree with you guys, the theme for the whole Volk area, the background music is all like big band jazz, heavy drums, horns. And that's fine and all. Those music tracks are great, but here it's just kind of like, okay, whatever. Like the only thing of note when I was listening to this music track, I was like, oh, that sounds like the fucking saxophone from Mario Kart Double Dash. It's like the only thing that stood out to me. I was like, this is kind of annoying. Whatever. So I don't like Mobile Tank Bizkarsh. Moving on.
Well, hang on now. Hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I remember really not liking it, and then I was like trying to tell Dave, and like Dave was like, "You idiot! It's actually good." And I was like, "Oh shit."
Oh, I said that. I can only apologize.
Dave, you're a real one. No, you didn't say that. I'm being hyperbolic, but no, it was. It was. You know what? I shouldn't have even spoken up here because I'm just gonna mimic exactly what Dave said. Yeah, it kind of felt like every time I got hit, I was like, "But how?"
Yeah,
that's bullshit. All right,
that's because you can't see anything. Yeah. The next one is Polonte the Hatchling. This is a big giant egg. This is actually the first snowboarding boss in the game, and it's split in two halves. The first half, you can't use your wind bullet because we'll talk about her later. But Lolo is in her depression era. So you can't use your wind bullet. You just got to speed up and smack into this guy who's not even born yet, and you just got to smack him and give him a concussion. And then in the second half, Lolo is out of her depression era. because she realized that it's okay to be a fucking moron as long as you keep trying. Popka's words, not mine. So then you get your wind bullet back and you can do a normal boss fight and catch up to it and smack this guy in the head some more, and then he gets knocked out, and then I guess that makes a tree stump happy. What a game. But where do you guys have Palante the Hatchling ranked in your rankings?
No. It's because he's a simple fool who doesn't know any better, but he keeps on fighting. Because all he knows is to keep on trying. You're right. What the fuck, Popka?
What did he say? What did he say? What did he say? Fighting, but not trying.
Because
anyway, what
this
do you guys
game is dumb.
Because Popka sucks. Throw him in the fucking garbage can. Where do you guys got him ranked?
Palante the Hatchling, I've got number 4, so middle of the pack.
You son of a bitch. No, that's your opinion. That's fine. That's fine. Maybe take that number and have it. Yeah, I got this ranked number 2, baby.
Ah.
That was so bad.
I'm even posing here, but you can't see me. I'm posing like fucking Ginyu Force with a 2. And...
I remember when you played this level and the boss, I think you said, yeah, you really liked it at the time.
What did Drew rank it, though?
Yeah, I had it. I have it at number 2 as well. It's a really, really good boss fight.
The only criticism I have of it is just that it seems that they placed one of like the speed boost like circles almost like wrong, because like there's one where you have to jump to get it because it looks like it's not in the ground enough. But everything else, this boss fight is so fun because you have to speed up. You don't have to double jump, I don't think, for pretty much anything. And you're just like, go fast, obstacle, bash him in the head. Like, it's fun. It's really enjoyable. I really enjoy the snowboarding stuff when it isn't just like a slide level. Well, I guess this is, an actual like Mario 64 slide level in that sense, where you have control of your horizontal movement too, of like your x-axis or whatever.
I will say, sometimes it was really annoying. I would just keep spamming the fucking wind bullet in the second phase because the stupid little snowboarding guys like just keep going back and forth and back and forth. You can't grab them properly.
Yeah.
It's very annoying sometimes.
The depth perception to grab an enemy when you're on the snowboard going into the screen or away from the screen is tough.
It's terrible. Literally, again... This game doesn't need to be so strict with its bullet hitbox. It doesn't need that.
Yeah, it really should have been adjusted just across both of these games. But
this boss is great, though. This was a lot of fun, and it was especially surprising because I didn't like the snowboarding level a lot. Maybe because of the Alvin and the Chipmunks music. I don't know, but no, this was like a really welcome. I was like, oh. Wow, they're using this for a boss fight. That's cool.
But I really like the bright daytime snow atmosphere that they brought back for this. I really like that it's like bookended with cool cutscenes. Like I really like Lolo, so like that really did scratch an itch for me. And also the music between both phases is really good because they took a drum and bass approach again. But it feels a lot different than what they did for the Geldboom and Klonoa 1. It just feels a lot more like floaty with emphasis on pads. It's just got like such an amazing atmosphere to it. Yeah, so Palante the Hatchling rocks number 2. Which one was next? Fucking Curse Lee Arena is next. That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't it wild how, again, it just feels like there's either too many non-boss levels or almost like the ratio is off on like the beginning opposed to the ending, because there doesn't seem to be, you know what I'm talking about? There's
like the same number of like bosses, but because of the remix stages, like this game doesn't have like the clean like two levels in a boss like split that the first game has. So it does. It's definitely more skewed. The game is less rigidly structured like that. I agree.
Cursed Lee Arena, you say?
Yeah, let's get into Cursed Lee Arena. I'll let Dave rank this first because I know, and talk about it first because I know Dork has a lot to say about this one too.
Okay.
But yeah, Dave, go for it.
Well, get out your pitchforks, folks, because this is my number 1 boss fight.
Dave, you're
I can
actually
see
in
that.
good company.
Yeah.
You're in good company because
No.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with
What?
you.
As in, you have a number one?
Yeah, as in I have it number one as well.
Okay,
yeah.
you didn't say. I have it at number 3, and I can totally see why you'd have this high. I think it was difficult in the right ways, except for it just being a little bit too... There was a part where I just didn't understand why I was being damaged, and I was thinking, if it was Klonoa 1, where I was getting half a heart of damage, I'm sure I would have been like, this is really fun, but because 3 hits and I'm out, I'm just thinking, like, God fucking damn it, like, what the hell?
For me, it's funny because on both phases, it took me like, I'd say probably not 5 minutes, but maybe it took me a long time on both phases to figure out how to damage the boss, right? I was trying everything. There was the electrical ball going around. That's when I first tried, maybe I got to do something with the ball, bonk it back and forth. And then, when it goes underneath and you've suddenly got parts of the level that can go down, I'm like, I got this, but then it didn't seem to work. And then there was I think there's a phase 3 as well when it starts jumping on you, and then you have to use the electrical guys to pop it in the belly. But it was basically because every phase was such a hard-fought victory because I had to really work out how to damage the boss, that in the end, I just really liked... I enjoyed every phase of the fight. A really cool design, wild design, I think, and just every phase was so different and required something different from me. To be honest, I mean, we'll get into it more later, but this is what the final boss should have been.
Dave, I really agree with you. The design is great. The sound design is great too because this boss has like a really distinct shriek. Like, if you want to go ahead and play it right here, right now, at an appropriate volume level. Because it just is like, whoa! Like, Liarina is like completely lost control of herself. They really make it, you feel it with the design and with the sound. And like, yeah, the boss like is obviously behaves very animalistically and is way bigger than you. Something that none of the other bosses did in this game. They all seem more or less like pretty on top of their mental state, where obviously Cursed Liarina is cursed, not in control, and it really does feel that way because all the 3 phases are radically different from each other. Just great fight, really keeps you on your toes, and the music feels straight out of fucking Final Fantasy as well. Like, it's just so climactic. I can't think of a more climactic sounding Klonoa song in general. Like, it's just so great. Yeah, anything else to say about Cursed Liarina?
Well, just before we let Dork give his opinion, I just want to...
Yeah.
Because I don't want to bring this up in the story section because I don't think it's worth saying, but I just wanted to read what I wrote in my notes about the story part of this boss fight. This really is Saturday morning cartoon shit. Liarina's sorrow was her reason for wanting to destroy the world, and it was too powerful for her and became its own monster. Very Persona. The fight was cool, at least.
It is very Persona. That's funny. Dork, you go ahead. Sorry, I completely didn't even realize that you hadn't gone.
I think I had the hardest time with this fight, which is what I already said, but I again, it didn't ruin it for me, though. I remember complaining about this with Dave, but because I love the concept of shooting your head into, the gut of the enemy in the air, but it just kind of felt like, again, needlessly strict, where I think there were some times when I totally, because, right, here's what it was. There's a small delay after you press double jump with that certain enemy where you won't go up yet. It's like, you hit it and it goes, ready, now! Where I'm thinking, in that like ready phase, just fucking count it. If the boss lands on me in that phase, just count it as I have, I hit him. So if you're holding an enemy over your head in any other instance of the game and an enemy lands on you, it'll kill the enemy on top of you and you won't take damage. This one isn't the case. I mean, again, it's a boss. I totally get it. But it's like, can you please have the consideration? Just try to be nice to me. You're taking a heart of damage from me every time. I'm sorry I didn't hit it 0.3 seconds earlier. Just, come on,
The timing on the stomach was really tough for me to work out too.
I
But
did
damn,
like.
doesn't it feel so good when you get it though?
Yeah.
It did, and I also really liked throwing it down on the. Oh my fucking god, guys! I'm totally mixing up these bosses. The entire time we were talking about her, I was thinking it was the one where you have to throw it. I think I was mixing this one up with Sorrow.
Oh,
So
man.
as you guys were talking, I was like, yep. I had a hard time with this. So all my complaints when we initially started, which was I couldn't like figure out how to not take damage. Sorry, all that was wrong. This one was just about that freaking like double jump thing. No, I actually really like this one in concept, but yeah, because you have to go up and then you have to throw the enemy down after a while. It's really cool. It has a nice little ebb and flow of like, you know, high and low kind of thing. It's neat.
Do you need to readjust your ranking?
No, 3. It's funny because I totally like remember feeling 3 was right for this one, even regard like. So I think 3 is actually where it would land. Yeah, yeah.
All right, and then I guess that just leaves our final boss, the King of Sorrow, which is in 2 very different parts because the first one is a snowboarding boss in a fucking tube. And then the second one, he defends himself with a sphere that you gotta hit the fucking polyps on or whatever, and you can just.
I can't
hit it
believe you
repeatedly.
guys. I can't believe you two.
Huh?
This is easily number 1.
I have a good reason why it isn't.
It might be the reason I said earlier about cursed Arena.
No, I bet you it's not. So yeah, those of you who have done the process of elimination should know that King of Sorrow is my number 2. We might as well just say it for all of us.
I have it at number 4.
Drew, leave.
And Dork, it's your number 1, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is an excellent boss fight. The boarding section was cool, and having to shoot the lasers while dodging, that's really cool too. It was really tense because I got a little too heavy with the save states. So by the time I got to the second phase, I only had 1 heart left. And so that was clutch. But the reason it's not number 1 is because this boss needed a phase 3. It was just over too quickly. Arena had 3 phases. It felt amazing. That's why I said Arena should have been the final boss, because once or that second phase needed to go on longer. It needed to have another twist on it, I think. Just because and I remember you saying this to me too, Dork. It was just over too quickly. I loved both sections, but it's just like, yeah, for me, like Arena's boss fight felt complete, where I felt a bit shorted by this one.
Yeah, in terms of like, you know, hours per dollar spent, this really shortchanged us on that ratio that we all got. I thought you'd laugh at that, Dave, because you hate that fucking ratio. No,
Yeah.
I agree. And again, okay, so all the things I said initially about Arena apply here. So I just didn't understand how to avoid certain attacks. And it's like, listen, I only have 2 hits and then I'm dead, you know, kind of thing. So, but it was kind of funny though, because it was really, really fun to hit the right spots, you know, boom, 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 over and over. But even on that last attempt, I did it really well. But my God, like, again, it's cool when you can do things quickly, but it doesn't feel very climactic when you do it so quickly. And I'm like, okay. And especially because Klonoa 1 had a very drawn-out 3-phase long, you know, end-end boss kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, this needed something like that, or at least another phase.
Maybe they were trying to respond to criticism that they may have gotten in that way. Like, I don't know, like maybe some... I know at that, I mean, I guess at that time it was probably very different. I doubt they were like looking on fucking game FAQs or whatever to see what people thought of the 3-phase final boss, but just making it shorter does kind of feel like they were just like really rethinking the approach maybe, but I agree that it should have been longer. My other main criticism is like this isn't actually a slight against the boss. Like I agree with everything that you guys said, and it is a very good boss. Like this isn't... I only have it at number 4 because I think it's just a good boss, and I would have liked it to be longer to become truly great. So, but what I would like to say is there's not like a cutscene transition to the snowboard tube. They just kind of cut to black and then drop you on the snowboard, and I find that incredibly weird. Like, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like, they just oh, you're in a snowboard fight now. I'm like, okay.
Actually, I don't know whether the PS2 version does that or not.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't seem like anything was missing from the intro to the boss in the remake either. Like, it just kind of drops you in.
I think it would have been a lot better if it showed like Sorrow pulling Klonoa into something,
Yeah.
you know, and then like maybe even like Popka can be like, take this, you know, and like finally he's useful, you know. But instead,
that would have been such like a badass anime ass moment. It would have been so fucking cool. I mean, it reminds me of like what we're talking about is like part of why like the final boss of like Mario Galaxy is so cool. Like Bowser is like yanking you around all the planets and like that kind of thing. Like I would have liked to see something like that. It would have really added even more to the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see why you say that, because yeah, it's just he floats up, black. I'm in a tube. It's
even stranger because like there's all like the dead colors in the Kingdom of Sorrow, and then cut to black, bright turquoise. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, again, if it was like showing you, it was pulling you into like Sorrow's brain or something. I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. You're right. I do really like. So the reason why I have this as my number one though is because of the snowboarding section. I really like the game. Again, I think you guys know I'm like gameplay over everything. So I really like the gameplay of just trying to slide in those little obstacle course ring thingies. Like here we go, and it's just you grab it and then you throw it. I'm like, this is sick. Here's the thing though. You can't take any of these bosses in isolation though. That's not why. Like if I'm just, for example, anyone who hasn't played this, if I'm just showing the like the snowboarding part of this boss fight, it doesn't do my feelings justice, because why it was so cool was because I came right off of a different snowboarding level I loved. So I couldn't believe it was back-to-back snowboarding. And like one was what was like the best snowboarding level in the game, and another one is a great boss. So I'm just thinking, like, I think for me that's what elevated this, was like the back-to-backness of it.
Yeah.
Well, I just looked up. It's the same transition on the PS2. The camera goes up to like the ceiling, fades to black, and then Klonoa is like falling in this blue space. But Klonoa's got his board on him.
Interesting.
But I already said my piece. Drew, you got anything more?
No, I think that's the boss fights. But since we're talking about the King of Sorrow, that gives us a really great segue into talking about the story of this game overall. I am more impressed with it than my cohorts. I do agree with you guys, though, that it once again is very back heavy, but it doesn't necessarily have... It tries to have its predecessor to lean on in terms of setting a tone this time, and I do agree that it doesn't quite work. And I do think that there is a lot of dialogue. I think the problem is that the dialogue itself is very simplistic, but there is an abundance of dialogue boxes, and I think that's what really makes it kind of a chore to engage with. Well, but I do think the overall story is fairly good for like what it is.
The characters are so I don't want to say badly written, but like it just I didn't care about any of them for pretty much the whole game. In fact, the one thing I wrote, I think I told you as well, Drew, I'm like, why are the good guys just so dumb? Like at every turn in this game, like Leorina gets the jump on them. And sure, there were a couple times where it was shocking, like when she posed as the guru. Like that was like, oh, okay, cool. But for most part, it's like, God, you could have seen that coming a mile away. Just why are you so stupid?
I think with Klonoa himself, it's like he's like a stranger and he doesn't like know where to go. Popka just sucks. And Lolo, yeah, she's a little bit flat-footed. She can't pass the interview is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, I think everybody's got their like there is like a reason. I'm willing to give these characters excuses, but it does become a little bit frustrating, especially by the point that Liarina is able to clone Klonoa's ring. I do think Liarina is an interesting antagonist because they try to be like, oh, like it's Klonoa's rival because she copies his ring and she has the sidekick. But then when they like explain the backstory right after Lolo kind of gets her shit figured out, you're like, oh, so this is basically like if Lolo didn't have friends and like got fucking depressed. So I do think it's interesting from a structure perspective, but I know perhaps another member on this podcast doesn't have such nice things to say about Liarina.
I was so disappointed with Klonoa 2 when it came. Like, is there like some stupid independent comic out there that explains the gap between Klonoa 1 and 2? Was there some other like media source that was like, hey, here's the in-between stuff. Here's some lore for you?
That I honestly don't know. The only thing I could probably tell you is it seems like Klonoa, like as a character, is kind of in the same place at the start of 2 as at the end of 1.
That's why I got.
Yep, that's what I thought.
What I could possibly tell you is maybe something of very little consequence maybe happens in the handheld games, but I haven't played those, so I don't know.
I do have a theory about it based on the very end of the game, but we're not there yet, so...
I have a theory about that, too. Here's the thing. Ignoring that little theory right now, though, right? Gosh, I feel like this game was like... It just stomped on the ending of the first game. Just fucking stomped it and then took a dump on it and said, I don't give a fuck about that. Because literally, I was so interested in seeing... You know what? I almost feel like robbed, because I was emotional with the end of Klonoa 1. I totally felt for Klonoa. Those tears that, you know, Hugh Pao, I understood, he held on. And for fucking what? Klonoa shows up in this other world and he goes, all right, time to be the hero again. I'm older. Like, what? He's just like, yeah, I'm in a new episode now. That's what it is.
I will agree with you that, yeah, Klonoa is not obviously the protagonist of this story. They do kind of like a Twilight Princess sort of thing, where the character you control isn't the character that grows and changes throughout the bulk of the story. But I do, with the totality of this story in mind, and with what I think Dave might bring up, or what I know to be a very popular interpretation, I don't think that that's fully the case. But I can definitely see how you would be frustrated, especially like through most of this game, playing it for the first time, because you don't get answers. There's no direct answers.
It's all about what's going on in this new world, and it's like, no, I want one fucking scene where Klonoa introspects a bit and goes, who the fuck am I? Like, one scene, anything at all. But no, instead it's just, oh, okay, let's go through this platforming level. Oh, okay, I guess I gotta save this land. Like, it's just so disappointing. I'm sorry, guys. It's just so frustrating to me, because I just don't care at all about this entire world. I don't give a fuck about any of you people. I hate all of them.
Damn. That really stinks. Like, other than Popka, I find the people in this world pretty charming overall. Even, like, the fucking stoic-ass little prophet guy who ends up being completely fake by the end. I liked hearing his weird-ass little voice, because he's like, blah, 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 blah. I really liked the tone of his voice. I like pretty much everybody that gets involved in a cutscene except for Popka, but that's just because he fucking screams everything. He needs to shut the fuck up for 2 goddamn seconds.
Well, Klonoa screams a lot.
Klonoa screams a lot, but he's cute. Yeah. Popka's not. Yeah. Popka's a bunch of fucking triangles.
I have something to admit to you two. You know when we did the opening Wahoo in the first podcast?
Mm.
Yeah.
And you know how I was like, how come everyone keeps doing the Wahoo with this character? In Klonoa 2 is when I realized that he was saying Wahoo. Wahoo! That's the only time I realized it. And I'm like, oh, that's what everyone's talking about.
Well, yeah, you got there.
Yeah,
well, you got there eventually. You passed the interview is what I'm trying to say.
I'm kind of just surprised, because I think of like Mario's Wahoo is like way more than just Klonoa's going wahoo. Like it's so nothing. I can't believe people grabbed onto that and like used that to embody this entire mascot character. That's insane.
He says it on the title screen, so it's kind of like his little thing.
I mean, Mario says Super Mario Odyssey. That's not his thing, though, is it?
Well, he does do that consistently in quite a few games.
But people don't go, hey, do you want a Super Mario Wahoo Odyssey coin, like, coupon? Like,
That's fair.
It's like when you load up every Resident Evil and there's that Resident
Evil.
But it's not the Wahoo that got to me. I did the joke at the start of the podcast, but the Doopity-deh was the one that just kept resonating with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot more like really fun gibberish. I think I told you, like, I noticed he said doopity-deh when in the dialogue box is like, let's give this a try then. So I guess we know what at least fucking one thing in that language stands for.
It's Klonoa's version of let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. Yeah, I mean, obviously you guys like didn't resonate with Lolo's little thing at all. I think she's kind of cute. I think she's really adorable. I really like hanging out with her, even though she's, a total moron. But she comes around in the end because she learns that, like, it's okay as long as she, like, actually tries. You can't just give up.
Well,
and I do like a lot of the locales in this game.
I found Volk City kind of depressing, actually. It's just like, it's a country that's just focused on killing each other, basically.
Yeah, it's constantly in war. All of the kingdoms are like based around solely experiencing one emotion constantly.
Yeah.
This is where kind of what I said at the beginning, like it reminds me of Inside Out. Like it's literally kind of, it ends up being like the exact same kind of message where you can't just like have one dominant emotion and completely exclude sorrow. Like sorrow is something that you need to like allow to happen, but not debilitate you. And so that's kind of what all these places are going through.
Well, and just to give the story some positives, the ending worked for me. I kind of felt for the King of Sorrow. I mean, he's the one that called Klonoa to this world in the first place, which is kind of a really cool revelation. I thought that was neat. It's just a shame that, like Leorina, he kind of turned to malice. But like that, the ending of him worked. I found that was bittersweet. The scene with Lola and Klonoa crying and having to say goodbye hit me.
Oh, fuck, man. That hit so hard. That hit so hard.
I thought that was really well done. Basically, after you go to you take that warp zone to the Sorrow Lands, the game just takes off both in narrative and gameplay. And then the ending, like what that suggests to me was both bittersweet and kind of cool. I don't know. Could I get into it right now?
Go for it.
So I felt sad for Klonoa with the idea that he's just going to wander off to another dream. It's almost like he's Sam in Quantum Leap, where just every episode he finds himself in a new space.
Yep.
But then the ending kind of shows the alarm clock. It suggests that maybe he has a normal life in a normal place, and this is what happens when he starts dreaming every night.
Yeah, I think eventually they probably would have explored that, but I don't know if they, like, obviously I have no idea what their fucking MCU map looks like, or if they even wanted to explore that. Something else that I think we really do need to discuss, especially for Dork's part where he's like, well, we didn't get any concrete answers about Klonoa getting sucked around to places. I do not think that it is a coincidence that both Klonoa and the King of Sorrow have really weird, long, floppy triangle ears with triangles on the ends. And I also don't think it's a coincidence that a being that has similar physical traits in an abstract way to Klonoa is the one that calls him to this world. I think in a subtextual sort of way, you could sort of interpret that Klonoa didn't have time to process the sorrow of getting ripped from one world to the next. And I think leaving that door open does kind of make this story feel even a little bit deeper in those final hours. And it's like, this is a very popular interpretation. I think it is really cool to suggest that, like, Klonoa is still going through pain, but he's just like, now that, I mean, Hupao told him, he's like, you're you're a dream traveler. Like, we called you to this world to fix things, and you don't belong here, and now you gotta go. So I think Klonoa has at least had enough time to be like, I guess this is just kind of like what I need to do, and I should just accept it. But obviously, so the moral of this story being that you can experience sorrow, but don't let it hold you back from trying it again, does still apply to Klonoa and his overall arc. I don't know where it would have gone from here. Obviously, Klonoa himself wasn't the one that needed to grow and change throughout this story. That had to do more with Lolo and Liorina. But I do think it still gave him something to do in terms of this ending.
Yep, that's how I feel about the whole story. It gave Klonoa something to do.
Fair enough. You did have a very interesting fan theory that I haven't heard before that you told me in the group chat that I thought was cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that you haven't heard this before because, I mean, again, I'm not very, I guess I shouldn't try to elevate certain interpretations of, like, media over others, but I guess I always, like, downplay, I don't have as cool of, like, theories as everyone else does. I think each of you connected with this a lot more than I did, just even right now. But, so perhaps I'm looking too much superficially at this line of dialogue, but it just seemed kind of strange how after the Sorrow boss, they kind of hung on this a little bit too, because Popka says, "Hey Lolo, I noticed something a while back," and you have to click, confirm, for it to go to the next thing, and then it's like, doesn't Klonoa kind of remind you of the goddess Claire? Maybe? And then she's like, yeah, he does. And I'm like, whoa. So, hang on. First of all, Drew, I have paid attention to this game. Is Claire shown at some point?
Yes, there's a cutscene in the middle of the second stage Lala Kusha where there's a big statue and Klonoa's like, who the fuck is that? And Popka's like, oh, that's a statue of the goddess Claire that like established our whole religion that Popka's trying to get priestess for. And Klonoa does not look like Claire. But I think it's supposed to be more like a, damn, Klonoa really do be having that strength of heart on God.
Oh my god, you said on God. That's such a Gen Alpha thing at this point. Yeah, but again, Klonoa, yeah, okay, so I'm seeing it now. Klonoa doesn't look like Claire, so it's just, it just seems like for how metaphorical these games are and how little concrete info we ever get and how they're always in dreams and how Klonoa clearly is some kind of weird being that we don't ever get answers for. Like, is Klonoa some type of god, to each of these worlds in a way? Where it's like...
That's what I found very interesting about what you were saying, because I think that could totally, be, what's going on.
And if that's the case, I mean, fair enough. Even if, Dave's thing is the case, where, every now and then Klonoa gets dragged into a dream when he sleeps, but he does have a real world. I guess that's fair enough. This wouldn't be the next thing in his life. Maybe off screen, he lived a life and this is the next time he got pulled into a dream, I guess. But I feel like there's something missing. I feel like I can't latch onto that enough. But I know some people really, really like the up for interpretation stuff, which is what we'll totally get to in Demon Souls too, by the way. So hopefully you're ready for that, Drew.
Fuck yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff outside of the realm of this game's story, because in the GBA games they kind of cheated the canon, because obviously the idea of the console games is new world every time, new characters. Klonoa doesn't really get to hang out with most of them. But in the GBA games, they cheated the canon so fucking Q-Pow and Lolo could show up again, and then they just fucking ditched it. They made this stupid top-down action RPG where you're not even in a dream world anymore. They're just animal characters, and everybody's best friends from the get-go. Because the thing is, these games want to tell melancholic stories where Klonoa just has to fuck off at the end, and it fucking sucks. But you can't really do that if you want to make a franchise out of something, because then you don't have a bunch of characters that you can put on fucking cereal boxes and stickers and shit. So they were just let's just change the canon and have everybody around all the time. And
see, that almost makes... So again, each of you guys were able to connect with the ending of it more than I was. And I think that has something to do with what you just said. Even if, Dave's theory is correct about how Klonoa just dreams and sometimes this happens, or, whatever. Even if he doesn't have to, battle who he is as a person, it still just makes me not really care about their goodbyes, because I don't care about Lolo, so it's like, I don't have this Hugh Pow, this utter, shock of, oh my god, but, because if we know it's gonna happen again, and again, it's why it is cooler how this time Klonoa walks out, and not get, this time it doesn't get sucked out, he walks out on his own.
He owns
which is cool.
it, yeah.
Yeah, which I appreciate that if there is growth of him understanding of what's going on. But it's because I didn't really care about Lolo, I think you have to be able to sympathize with her to really have the ending land. And for me, it didn't land, so I didn't sympathize with her, and I don't care about Popka, so he can get thrown into a fucking dicer.
Popka didn't even care that Klonoa was walking out of the world. That guy fucking truly sucks.
Yeah, and his eyes are dumb. Why are his eyes like that?
Yeah, dude, I don't even fucking know. But here's one other thing that I want to bring up before we fucking leave Klonoa behind. There were actually plans for a Klonoa animated movie that was stuck in development. Hell, I'm not sure. I would need to recheck the dates. I'll send them in the group chat or something later. But I know that it was stuck in development hell throughout the later 2010s, and then it got canceled in 2019 outright. But we don't really know anything about it other than that it did indeed exist at one point. My personal pitch for that movie would probably have been Klonoa heading to his world of origin and just having it be some sort of tragic shit there where he still has to leave again would have been my pitch for it. But like I said, Klonoa really does just exist to get fucked, and he sold 0 copies. So it's not like we're ever going to get any resolution to this sort of thing, even if they did want to explore it. So we're just going to have to leave it at that, unfortunately. Yeah, so that was our discussion on Klonoa 2. Do you guys have any closing thoughts you want to say?
Wahoo!
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't know if I would ever want to play through Klonoa again, but with Klonoa 2 now working on the PS2 emulator, I was thinking that if I ever start streaming again, it'd be a really cool game to stream.
That is a really cool thought, yeah. Yeah, I think both of these games are very replayable for different reasons. Obviously, I walked away, especially from Klonoa 2, admiring it a lot more than you two did, but I don't think anyone in the right mind could say, it's a straight up awful, horrible, terrible game. And both of these games are, just so wonderful, and I'm just really glad that they exist, even if they didn't make a bajillion dollars and get an entry on every single console known to man. Yeah. I just am really super glad that these games exist. I'm glad that even if the remake itself sucks, I still gained an appreciation for this game. It made me fall in love with them. So I'm just really glad that Namco was still willing to give them another wide release. Yeah, I don't think I have anything really else to say.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We forgot to give Klonoa 1 a ranking out of 5 stars, if you remember.
Did we?
So, yeah, we totally forgot about that. So, out of 5, how would you rank Klonoa 1, Dave?
Well, this is going to ruin your flow, but both of them are 3 stars for me.
Okay. And you, Drew?
Oh, I think I would give Klonoa 1... I think I would give them both 4 stars. They're not perfect masterpieces, especially not the remakes, but they're both great.
See, this is the problem with ratings, because I know you both gave MGS a 2.5. I would say...
I gave it 3 stars.
Did you? Mm-hmm. I would say Klonoa 1 is a 2.5, and then Klonoa 2 is a 2.
What the scallop? I think that's fair.
Again, in terms of a 2, as in I liked it, I don't think I want to play this ever again, Yeah. But I can see it has some good parts, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I should actually say something real. It's good. Yeah, it's funny. I totally would not want to play Klonoa 2 ever again. Klonoa 1, I might. If I could just do the boss fights and the snowboarding levels, I'd be well, maybe. But in terms of every other platforming stuff, there's just too many small issues where it's just fuck off. I don't want to deal with this. But,
Well-
at least with Klonoa 1, like, the bosses were enough to have me go, oh, and I get to the boss again. This one, I don't have that.
Well, also, if you ever get the inkling to play Klonoa 1, I highly recommend getting a PS1 emulator and trying that version.
Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, if it is ever at, like, a used game shop, I really should.
Well, I guess all that's left to do now is, I mean, Dork, you mentioned it a couple times this episode, but why don't you tell the viewers once and for all what we're doing next?
Finally, yes. I am choosing this next one, Catherine Full Body. I'm just kidding. That was the joke last time. I think Drew gets it. Yeah, this time we actually are going to do Demon Souls. That was what I picked last time, and I changed it afterwards because I'm like, I can't do it yet. But this time we are doing Demon's Souls, not the remake, the one on the PS3. Drew had to buy the physical version, then they had to fucking get it on the digital because their PS3 sucks.
Oh my god, next time I will have the PlayStation hardware rants next time on PGC.
Finally, it's your turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited to go through Demon Souls. I'm hoping eventually for us to go through all of FromSoft. In terms of what games I love and what games I know Demons and Dark Souls very, very well. So can't wait to hear Drew's thoughts on it. Dave has already played it, but I can't wait to hear how he fares on a second playthrough. I'm very, very excited. This will be like my 10th playthrough probably, but I'm already jazzed up for it. Hell yeah, I love Demon Souls.
I'm actually very interested because I haven't played a Souls game. Like I've played, mostly the Zelda series in terms of like 3D action adventure type stuff, but I just haven't played any of the Souls games. And obviously this whole podcast is about all of us just playing stuff, and it's out of most of our comfort zones depending on the pick. So I'm just really excited to like have a reason and be like, okay, fuck yeah, I'm going to buy this twice and I'm going to play this once and it's going to be probably awesome. And I'm really excited to see what my thoughts are on it.
Hell yeah.
All right, let's say I'm going to take us home. Well, if you liked this episode, then click like and subscribe. And if you didn't like this episode, then click dislike and click subscribe anyway. And you can shit on our Demon Souls opinions. I know that you will want to because you probably are a gatekeeper. And I've been Drew, and this has been Dorkaxe and Dave. And this has been Post Game Clarity, where after the game
comes the sorrow.
Moga 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 moga.